Welcome back, everyone, to the Late Night Review. And tonight I want to talk about a hidden gem. And for people who know about movies and the history of TV shows, it's not really a hidden gem if you look at it from that, people who are familiar with certain aspects. But this TV show, it's an old one. It's one that you shouldn't miss, especially if you like Westerns, if you like watching television shows, and television shows that have interesting stories and interesting plots. It's a hidden gem, I think, for a lot, because a lot of people haven't seen it. Older generations are familiar with it. There's certain types of fans who like Westerns, who are familiar with television, especially classic television, who are familiar with this. I'm talking about Cheyenne with Clint Walker. I really have grown to love this series. I've always liked Clint Walker. You know, when I was a kid, I watched Night of the Grizzly over and over again. They rented it for me, or my grandparents up there. I used to watch it, and I loved it. I've always loved Clint Walker. I think he was always an inspiration. He was always fit, and he always exercised, especially when he was active and doing his movies. He was always in shape, and he's a really inspirational force, I think, in a lot of people's lives, especially if they've watched him and followed his career. This is a good show. Don't underestimate it. I'm telling you, when I first started watching, it was about, I was always familiar with Clint Walker. I always liked him. I knew about Cheyenne. He's been in some really good movies, The Dirty Dozen. Night of the Grizzly was a classic. I grew up on that. He was in Yuma. It was another good movie. He was in one of my favorite movies called More Dead Than Alive, him and Vincent Price. It's an interesting movie. I don't like the ending. The beginning is strange, and the ending I don't like, but the rest of it was really good, More Dead Than Alive. But Clint Walker is really, really, to me, a positive inspiration. He always has been. And when I first started watching, I knew about Cheyenne when I was a kid, and then older than that, younger and older, give or take. I always knew about the show Cheyenne, but I never got into it. I'd see a few seconds of it on TV and I'd go do something else. But a couple years ago, I watched an episode or two and I liked it. And I thought, I don't know if this is better than I thought. I just thought to myself at the beginning, before I watched any of them all the way through, I thought, well, it's kind of older, it's black and white, and I'm probably going to be bored and I don't want to see it. But after I tried it, after I watched it, I liked it more and more. And now it's actually become one of my favorite TV shows of all time. It used to be The Twilight Zone. That's my all-time favorite. Now Cheyenne is kind of overtaking it. And if you put your kids in front of the television and use your television as a babysitter, which I'm not recommending, by the way, you could do a lot worse than putting them in front of a TV with Cheyenne. This show is positive. It has a really lot of positive, good, healthy messages in it. Cheyenne Bodie is a hero, and Clint Walker brings that hero to life. And I'm not suggesting you leave your kids in front of the TV like a babysitter, but if you do, Cheyenne's probably the best show you can have them watch. One of the best shows, probably the best show on television that you can have them watch. I think that the stories are a lot better than I thought they were. I thought the stories are very, very good. I thought it was going to be, you're going to have a time where you're going to guess everything easy. I'm going to sit here and just guess everything. I'm going to watch this and it's going to be very easy to predict. And I tell you, most of the shows are not that easy to predict. And even if they are, they're still good, even if you do predict them, which you can. It's an older show. There's a lot of things that are normal now that weren't normal back then, as far as revealing certain things, what one character is doing and how that character relates to other characters. There's so many plots over the years that people have seen over and over and over again. So you got to do stuff new. Like every decade, they got to start bringing new stuff, new plots, new storylines, new stuff that they could do because it's all been used before. This is surprisingly fresh. Being an old show, There's a lot of stuff you don't see coming in this show, surprisingly. So I sat down, gave it a shot, started watching Cheyenne from beginning to end, and I like it. And I like this show a lot. I mean, the plots are interesting, even if sometimes they're very predictable, but sometimes they're not. Sometimes they're not. But even if they are, they're fun. They're interesting. There's not a ton of action in these shows from start to finish, just nonstop, but there's a good amount. And when they happen, it's kind of more exciting because you have the build up. And when they do happen, it's funner because you're not bored with it. Sometimes shows that have too much of the same thing over and over and over again, where it gets repetitive, you get bored. At least I do. I get bored if I see the same thing happening over and over and over again, whether it's action or not. But with this, the pacing is pretty darn good. And when I watch it, the plots are good, the stories are good, how one character interacts with another, how the reveals go and how the reveals are portrayed on the screen, and it builds and builds and builds layer upon layer. Then you find out this character is doing something you didn't think they were doing. And actually, this person over here you thought was bad, they might be doing it for other motives that might turn out to be good. And it all comes around, and there's usually a very positive message at the end. And Cheyenne is always the hero, always good. And he's brought to life beautifully and very, very well by Clint Walker. Perfect for a hero. He's a guy that I always thought could have made a great Superman. Christopher Reeve is my personal favorite Superman of all time. There's others who are really good. I think if Clint Walker had the opportunity back in his era, he would have made a fantastic, fantastic Superman. Maybe Telly Savalas would have made a great Lex Luthor, and Yul Brynner would have been a great Brainiac. That's kind of my dream cast. Even though Christopher Reeve was my favorite, I think if Clint Walker was given the opportunity, he would have made a fantastic Superman. If you haven't seen Cheyenne, I strongly suggest that you check it out. I can't recommend it enough. It's a very, to me, don't underestimate it like I did. I thought I'd just be bored. It's an older show, it's black and white. But, there's a lot of older movies that I like black and white, like with Kirk Douglas or Jimmy Stewart, John Wayne. There's so many that I do like that are really, really good. Psycho, great one. The Vikings was in color, but it was older. The Hercules movies, Samson and Delilah. There's so many good ones. The Champion with Kirk Douglas. There's a lot of old movies that I like, but I kind of thought, oh, I'm going to get bored with this. It's a television show. The stories are better than I thought. I highly recommend it. You shouldn't pass it up, I don't think. Try a few episodes. See if you like it. If you don't, you don't. But just try it. I think it's definitely worth checking out. I highly recommend the late night, or I highly recommend watching Cheyenne, even though this is a late night review. Cheyenne usually comes on during the day. It's on Heroes. Right now I'm watching it on a network called Heroes. H&H, I believe, is are the letters, the initials, but it's a really good show. It's fun. It's not a drag. It's not slow. Now, some of you might think it is, and everyone has their opinion, and it might be slow. It might not be your thing, but I think the pacing is pretty good. I think the stories are excellent, borderlining on great. Not every single show is going to be great. I've found that most of them are really good. Some of them are okay. There's a couple that are great. A few of them are great, but I love Cheyenne. I really think Clint Walker does a good job. The character Cheyenne was raised by the Indians from a boy. He's an excellent tracker. He often helps the army track criminals. He's often a bounty hunter in here, which kind of plays into some of Clint Walker's later work with The Bounty Man and Yuma, a couple films that I really like quite a bit. But this is Cheyenne, and check it out. It's really good. I don't think you'll be disappointed if you like Westerns, if you like older shows. And yes, it's dated, but actually I think that's part of its charm, the fact that it's dated. I like it. That's one of the reasons I like it, but especially because Clint Walker is in here and the stories are good. You don't only have a great character in Cheyenne Bodie and Clint Walker bringing him to life, you have good, solid stories. And if you like good stories and Westerns, check this out. Now I can say it. This has been the Late Night Review. Check out Cheyenne. share this video, please. Tell other people about the channel. And I'm thankful for all the people who've subscribed, and I'm thankful for all the views. I hope the channel gets bigger and grows. And make sure that you tune in next time for the late night review. And have a good night, everybody.